រៀបសួរពុកម៉ែបងប្អូនថ្ងៃនេះខ្ញុំនិងគ្រួសារនាំគ្នាមកដើរកម្សាន្តនៅក្នុងសួនសត្វដ៏ធំមួយនៅក្នុង state របស់នាងខ្ញុំហើយក្នុងនោះក៏មានការពិព័រណ៍នានិងការរៀបរាប់របស់អ្នកនាំដំណើរឬហៅថា guide នឹងបានក្បោះក្បាយនៅក្នុងនោះយើងដូច្នេះយើងចង់បានទៅទស្សនាទាំងអស់គ្នាបើមានខុសឆ្គងត្រង់ណាសំខាន់ទេពេកទៅផងចា
I don't know, it sounded like a scream of terror for a little bit. But yeah, and there's only 10 of you guys, so you gotta make up the difference. But like I said, all this land is the wilds, 10,000 acres, and you might be wondering how we got all this land. It was actually all donated to us in the mid-1980s by AEP. AEP stands for American Electrical Power, and all this land around here used to be a strip mine. In a strip mine, you take up that first layer of topsoil, you sort through it for any coal, natural resources, stuff like that. But like I said, in the mid-1980s, this was turned into North America's largest wildlife conservation facility. So that's kind of a mouthful, right? Largest wildlife conservation facility. So I'll break it down into kind of just the three main goals of the wilds. One of our goals is to breed our endangered or extinct in the wild animals. And you guys will hopefully see a result of that today. You can see some really cute baby animals. It can also mean researching our animals and learning more about them. Because like I said, a lot of these animals here, there's not many of them left in the wild, so we can learn a lot by having them in these wide open habitats in such large groups. And lastly, of course, education. So raise your hand if this is your first time ever at the wilds. Okay, only you guys in the back, so I can say whatever I want to you guys in the back and you guys as well. Perfect. Just kidding, but like I said, education is actually our third kind of main point. Teaching the public about animals. And like I said, if this is your first time here at the wilds, you might even see some animals that you've never even heard of. So that's always a cool way to start as well. But just like that, we're coming up on our sally port as another bus leaves and we get ready to go in. A sally port is just a big way of describing a system of two gates. So this first gate we're going to have open, I'm going to go in and then close it behind me before I open the next one. That way I can make sure that I keep all my exotic wildlife in, but any of my native wildlife out. That was good, that was good. Having way more fun already. I haven't even gotten into pasture yet.
Jurassic Park, right?
Oh, just you wait, you're exactly right. Because that's one of my first jokes I make, is that these gates are a little bit like Jurassic Park, kind of remind me a little bit of it. But if you guys have seen Jurassic Park, that movie doesn't end well for everybody. But you don't have to worry, because here at the Wilds, it will end well for everybody. We're having an amazing time. A lot safer here, more like a Jurassic Park. And you can laugh, too. There's going to be a lot of them.
Electrified fence, too.
Exactly, yeah. And like I said, that system of two gates, too, so we can make sure that all of our native wildlife stays out. I don't want any bobcats or white-tailed deer running around pasture, but also I keep all my exotic wildlife in. I don't want any rhinos running around Ohio. That wouldn't be very good. And I have my clicker here to open lots of gates here at the Wilds. If it ever looks like a gate's not closing behind me, feel free to shout out, Jimmy, wait, that gate's not closing, or anything like that. I'll make sure it gets shut behind it. But just like that, entering onto pasture, just like that, I already see our first species. So I'm going to pull us on the other side of this hill so we can get a better look. And then I'll stop and we can look, and I'll explain what species you're looking at hanging out down here. All right. So I'll stop us here for a second. I'll talk about this very cool species of deer. Not like your normal white-tailed deer you might see in Ohio. These are Pear David deer from China. So Pear David deer from China, but you might have a hard time finding them there. At one point, they were even extinct in the wild. Let's break down the name a little bit. So Pear actually means father in French. You guys are getting a French lesson today too. But Father Armand David was a French missionary. He went to China and saw this really special species of deer. The emperor even had some in his garden. He decided to bring some back to Europe with him. And like I said, it's a good thing he did, because this deer species became extinct in the wild, and Father Armand David's herd were some of the only deer of this species left in the whole world. They have made a pretty good recovery. We actually have the largest herd of Pear David in North America, and they have had some released in different places, preserved in China. And the herd you're looking at right now are all kind of females and babies, like a nursery herd, that one dominant male laying down. Of course, you can tell the male part because he has antlers. The females do not. And as far as babies go, it looks like if you look at the kind of line of them in the water, the one on the little patch of like 3 of them hanging out in the grass, I think those are some of our babies. We do a pretty good amount. They're actually growing up pretty fast. But we'll also be finishing our tour on the same place that bus is right now, so we'll get a closer look at them later, as well as some males that like to hang out all throughout our property. But again, Pear David deer are a very special deer species from China, and you notice them all hanging out in the water. They're actually really good swimmers. They have a special webbing between their feet and that allows them kind of have like web feet, kind of like flippers or something when you go in the pool. So really good swimmers too. But again, Pear-David deer, a deer species from China, but we'll keep moving. We'll take a left for now and see what else we can find. And of course, told you a little bit of a bumpy ride. And of course, if at any point you have any questions, comments, anything like that, feel free to shout out. I'd be more than happy to answer anything. And of course, you guys keep an eye out as well too, because sometimes I'm also driving, right? 10 pairs of eyes are better than one. If you guys ever see something looks like I'm driving right past it, let me know. I know where all of our animals like to hang out, and where I saw them earlier in the day, but they're always up and moving, so you never know where you might see something. And going through another one of our gates here, like I mentioned, our pasture is separating a lot of smaller pastures to kind of separate things based on what kind of habitat the animals need, so what kind of habitat, where they like to live, and also how well they get along with other species, so how well these animals kind of play with others. So lots of different gates, and luckily these gates are not manually operated like they apparently used to be in the 90s, which is good. They're actually solar powered, so not only is that cool for energy conservation, but if we ever lose power here in the wilds, we'll still be able to get in and out of our gates, which is important, because no one wants to live out here in pasture forever. Big green structure here as well. So like I mentioned, all this land used to be a strip mine owned by AEP. AEP does still own the mineral rights to this land, so you'll see some of these structures hanging around the property too. And we're going to do this upper loop first here, and then we'll see what else we can find on the lower loop. A lot of our roads are one way, right? Two buses wouldn't be able to fit on that road very well. Keep it moving. Like I said, a little bit of a bumpy ride, right? You might be wondering why our roads are so bumpy here at the Wilds. I get asked that a lot, and another tour guide told me a story about a safari park in Texas. They went ahead and they paved their roads, took a lot of time and money, and as soon as they finished, they found out none of the animals would cross any of the paved. Persian onagers are a wild donkey species from the Middle East. They are endangered. There's actually less than 1,000 Persian onagers in the wild. And what's interesting about them as well, there's only about 30 to 40 Persian onagers in the United States. So you guys are looking at a good percentage of all the Persian onagers in the U.S. right here at the Wilds. These ones are all females. We do have a breeding herd of onagers, but males can be a little bit more aggressive, so they stay in the back for most of the year. And again, a wild donkey species from the Middle East. You can tell they're a wild donkey species because their mane sticks straight up and goes all the way down their back. They're kind of just hanging out right now, having a nice little pool party, but they can run pretty fast. They can run upwards of 43 miles per hour. Not only that, they can hold that pace for more than a mile, so even faster than a lot of domestic horses. So a very special species, again, Persian onagers, a wild donkey species we have here at the Wilds. They can survive some pretty tough climates too if they need to. They can develop a pretty thick winter coat and survive in some tougher weather. Now I'll talk about what happens to species that can't live in very cold weather. Once we get there, we just can go if they need to. I'll drive by slow if you guys get a better view, but again, Persian onagers, a wild donkey species from the Middle East.
So you're breeding them here too?
You know, you probably wouldn't believe me, but you never know where she's moving, and she does like to hang out in that deep, tall grass. Like right up there. Let's see if I can pull us past this bush. Maybe you'll see. And again, one of two rhino species we're going to see today, but she's the harder one, like I said. I only see her about every other tour, so you already crossed the hard one off your list. Again, a greater one-horned rhino. Her name is Sonia, and she's the only rhino of this species out here. She's laying down in that tall grass. She also has what's called a prehensile upper lip. There's her head. So like I said, looks like a big boulder so you kind of see her ears flicker. And it's hard to tell from here, but she has a prehensile upper lip. And what that means is she can move her lip independently of the rest of her body, kind of like having a hand on her mouth so she can grab onto branches, like these bushes here and different stuff like that. The rhinos we'll see later, they can't really move their mouth at all. They can only eat grasses. So yeah, so the difference is between her and the other rhinos we'll see later that are from Africa. But like I said, 5 types of rhino in the world.
She's the only one you got? You don't have a male, do you?
We did at one point. I think he's getting shipped off to another place. And then we might try and switch him up again. But we did at one point have a male. But right now, she's the only one we have out in pasture. I think at some point, maybe a couple might have been domesticated or a couple might have bred with domestic horses. But they still have that mane that goes straight up and all the way down their back. If you have 2 more chromosomes in domestic horses, you definitely want to try and ride one. Wouldn't go very well. Another thing I want to point out too, if you look at their legs, let's see, especially kind of like the backs of their legs, they have those stripe patterns. Some kind of that.
Zebra.
And there's a couple theories of why zebras have stripes. One is that so it helps keep predators at bay, because zebras, they're going to hang out in large herds, and a predator is going to try and single out the slowest and weakest of the herd. But if they're all hanging out in a big group from far away, it's kind of hard to tell where one zebra starts and another one ends. There's also a theory that flies with their compound eyes can't see stripes as well, so it might help keep bugs away from them too. And this species of zebra is endangered. A threat that they face is a lack of watering holes. So just like people, zebras like to find their potential mates at the local watering hole. But zebras are kind of losing access to their watering holes with different types of development going on in Africa. So we'll take a last look at Grevy zebra. Any pictures, stuff like that. And off in the distance, we got the largest bird in the world and the tallest land mammal. Yep. So 3. Those are ostrich. Yep. So we should have 3. I see 2 of them right now. One might be blocked by that pole. Or just hiding somewhere else. I have been asked before if that structure out there is a giraffe. It's not. I hope that person saw their optometrist. But you can see the ostrich too. It looks like they're communicating using their feathers. So I was going to say they are the largest bird in the world. They can't fly, but they still have feathers. They'll use their feathers to steer when they're running, because they can run up to 40 miles per hour, or to communicate like they just were there.
And their feet can kill you with one hit.
Yeah, they can kick really hard, which is why we're on the bus. But sometimes they'll get curious and come to the bus. Luckily, their peck doesn't hurt. Otherwise, I probably have some more scars than I do. Let's see, I'll try and get you a good angle. So you can look at all of our giraffes, as well as this one right up here. There and one back there as well. So we have multiple species of giraffe here at the wilds too. Let's see. So the one on our left and the one hanging out right, that one's kind of hybrid actually. The one on the left here is Tuffy. He's in part a reticulated giraffe. He has that kind of classic, distinct brown splotches with the thin white lines. And his pattern ends right around his knees. It looks like he's wearing big white knee socks. But if you look at the ones hanging out by their feet structure, especially the one on the left, that is a Maasai giraffe. They have more of that puzzle piece pattern. Their pattern goes all the way down their legs. So lots of different subspecies of giraffe. We do have a breeding program for Maasai giraffes, those ones with like the puzzle piece. And giraffes, of course, the tallest land mammal. They can reach 14 to 18 feet tall, but there have been giraffes recorded in the wild up to 20 feet tall. They're starting to find that giraffes are slowly getting taller and taller in the wild, but they're staying about the same height in captivity. And you can tell male and female giraffes apart. I'm not very good at it, not the most reliable way. But if you look at the one on the left here, he has ossicones. Ossicones are not horns or antlers, they're bone covered by fur. But Tuffy there has a really distinct middle ossicone right in the middle of his head. And that's, the males will have that third one. But sometimes when you're looking at him, females have a little bit of a bump too. So that's really the only one I use in as an example. But that's how you can tell a good example of a male between a female giraffe. But sometimes there's a little bump either way. So, so I'm going to come in, I'm going to close the gate behind us, and then I'll talk about it. I think you can see those southern white rhinos hanging out with all the summer campers. So I'm pulling it just enough so we can get this door closed. Probably. So they're with animal management staff, and there you can. And Outpost, I was going to talk about it a little later, but I'll actually bring it up now. So we do have something called evenings at Outpost. Well, they'll bring you out here around 7 p.m. and you can like pretty much do the same thing they're doing, like feed the giraffes too. It's a really special experience. But again, these are scimitar horned oryx, an African hoofstock. There's also some more southern white rhinos down the left, so too. Some down there on the left, some hanging out with those summer campers, and we'll hopefully see the rest of that herd if they don't get cut off by the hill.
Yeah, look at that big one down there.
Yeah, like I said, second largest land mammal, can weigh up to 6,000 pounds. The largest one we have here in pasture, his name is Roscoe, and he is 5,500 pounds.
Woo.
Yeah, it's a whole lot of grass you gotta eat if you're gonna get that big too. But again, these scimitar horned oryx, they're from Africa. They're technically extinct in the wild though. That story does have a good ending though, because scimitars, just like these ones you see here from the wilds, actually got released back into Tunisia in Africa. So we had some from right here get released into Africa, the first time scimitars were back in Africa in a long time. Ours actually became the dominant male of the herd as well. So there are technically these guys in Africa, but it actually takes 15 years from when you introduce a species to make sure it's still healthy and successful, and then it can be considered successfully reintroduced. So we do have some in the wild, but they're still technically extinct in the wild. And you see some of those babies walk along as well. And with any baby hoofstock, you'll notice how small they are and how well they blend in with that tall grass. And that's definitely intentional. A lot of times the mom will have her babies in the tall grass, kind of stash them there away from the rest of the herd until they get big enough to kind of keep keep up with the rest of the herd. And they're called scimitar horned oryx because of those horns that bend backwards like a scimitar, those old-timey swords. And their horns are all bone covered by keratin, unlike rhino horns, which is all going to be made of keratin. Walk across here. We also got some southern white rhinos coming this general direction. Maybe they'll get a little closer for us. And southern white rhinos are very special here at the wilds. This is actually the only place in the world outside of Kenya to have a 5th generation rhino born in captivity. Done not only once, but twice. So that means the baby, mom, grandmother, great-grandmother, great-great-grandmother. So glad we waited.
ដូចដូរគ្នាមកខាងនេះទេនេះ want to change over there and
You can build a big rhino
គឺ
cross.
កន្លែង
the
បញ្
side.
ជក់អាចមែន
អូហូ
ជក់មកកណ្ដុំ
មិញមិនដែរមិញឃើញវាដើរបែកអាពីរនេះមកនេះអានោះដើរម្នេះវិញចេញមកនោះនៅអានោះច្រើនទៀតដែរនៅម្ដុំទៀតនោះនៅក្របនោះមកច្រើនខាង over there មិនតែដើរទៅហើយ
Alright, so any more pictures, finish up your videos when you guys are ready. You can take a seat for me, we'll keep moving so we get on this hill. It's a little bit of a steep one. What's called a stud book though. Stud book is basically a big document, it has all the Bactrian deer, their family tree, kind of their health status, who they need to mate with, all that good stuff. And the person who runs the stud book for all the Bactrian deer in the world works right here at the Wilds. So that's pretty cool.
នេះសាច់ឈ្មោះ
They're watching us just like we are them.
Yeah. And obviously all males kind of hanging out right here, kind of a little dude party, but then we might see some females and babies later too. So again, Bactrian deer species from the Middle East. We'll keep moving. For ages 21 and up, you can hang out there, really nice, kind of overlooking pasture. It comes with a really fancy breakfast, dinner, 2 open-air safari tickets, a nice fire pit up there, and 24-hour concierge service. So really nice getaway vacation or anything like that. For now, let's go see what this herd of Bactrian camels is up to. They like to rub up against the bus, so we'll probably get a close look at them. Yeah, you're exactly right. So if they have 1 hump, they're dromedary. 2 humps, they're Bactrian. If they have 3 humps, right? The way I remember that too is dromedary camels are the ones from Egypt and Africa that you see all the time. If they're laying on their side, it's about a big capital letter D with their 1 hump. These guys with their 2 humps, if they were on their side, it's about a big capital letter B for Bactrian. If you forget where they're from, those 2 humps also spell a big capital letter M for Mongolia.
They're too close.
Yeah, sometimes they'll come and they'll wipe their nose in my mirrors and have to wipe off camel boogers later, so it's nice with this. This is a good distance. They are an animal though that can survive in a variety of temperatures. They can live anywhere from -40 to 100 degrees. So they'll be out here in pasture year round. You can even see them kind of start to shed those thick patches of their winter coat still. And we have 3 females, 1 male. The one in the back left there is our male. His name is Gobi, named after the Gobi Desert where you might find these guys in the wild. Like I said, really adapted to cold climates or any